In an unprecedented display of solidarity, Canadians are launching a massive economic response to President Trump's 25% tariff on car imports. Sources report a 70% drop in U.S.-Canada flight bookings, marking the most significant trade dispute between these allies in recent history. Prime Minister Mark Carney called Trump's move a direct attack on Canadian workers. The impact affects Ontario's automotive sector, which represents 30% of exports, threatening thousands of jobs in Windsor, Hamilton, and Waterloo. Canadians are responding with unity through the Buy Canadian Only movement, with social media showing shoppers choosing domestic products. In Toronto, protesters gathered outside the U.S. consulate, raising their elbows in defiance, dubbed Elbows Up. MP Charlie Angus declared, "We will never be the 51st state of the U.S." As U.S.-bound trips decline, domestic tourism is booming. Cross-country tours are selling out, indicating a potential long-term shift in Canadian consumer behavior. International support has come from Australia, France, and Scotland, suggesting this dispute could reshape global trade dynamics. The issue has become about national sovereignty and economic independence. For workers in Windsor and Hamilton, this isn't just politics, it's personal. These industrial cities face unprecedented challenges. However, the unified response from government and citizens shows Canada's determination. Experts say this could be a turning point in North American economic relations. The question remains, will this unity hold, and could it force a reconsideration of U.S. trade policy? As the situation develops, Canada's response has transformed a trade dispute into a demonstration of national resolve. Canadian auto workers don't just build vehicles, they build Canada, declared Carney. This fund will protect 500,000 jobs and strengthen our domestic supply chain, reducing our dependence on U.S. markets. The response includes a $2 billion strategic response fund, reformed unemployment insurance, tax deferrals for affected businesses, liquidity packages, retaliatory tariffs approaching $30 billion. Industry experts warn that Trump's decision could backfire. The North American automotive sector operates as an intricate network spanning 3 countries. Disrupting this system could trigger a chain reaction affecting millions of workers. This isn't just about tariffs anymore, explains economist Dr. Sarah Martinez. We're witnessing the potential dismantling of decades-long industrial cooperation. The ramifications could last generations. The U.S. economy shows concerning signs. 54% of American voters believe the economy is heading wrong. Wall Street experienced its worst performance in 2 years. Inflation continues to plague consumers. Food prices up 6.3% overall. Essential items seeing increases. Eggs 8.5%, milk 7.2%, beef 10.4%. Housing costs in major cities soaring 12 to 18%. Cities like Windsor, Ontario, face potential devastation as the automotive industry braces for impact. We're not just talking about numbers on a spreadsheet, says union leader Tom Wilson. These are real families, real communities at stake. The question remains, will diplomatic solutions emerge, or are we witnessing the beginning of a prolonged economic conflict between these longtime allies? As both nations stand firm, workers on both sides of the border wait anxiously for answers. Stay tuned for updates on this developing situation affecting millions across North America. Good evening. I'm bringing you critical updates on America's economic turmoil affecting millions of households nationwide. The numbers are stark, hitting close to home for every American family. Let's break down what's happening. The stock market took its biggest hit in 2 years, with the Dow Jones plunging 4.2% and the S&P 500 dropping 3.8%. Tech giants like Apple, Tesla, and Microsoft watched their stocks take a nosedive. This isn't just about Wall Street, it's about Main Street. New tax policies are creating a ripple effect drowning small businesses. Raw material costs have shot up by 15–25% across industries. While big corporations can pass these costs to consumers, small businesses are getting crushed. Over 5,000 small businesses have filed for bankruptcy in 6 months. The average American household is now paying $1,500 to $2,000 more per year to maintain their standard of living. Retail prices have jumped 8% since these new taxes took effect. The administration is using the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 to deport undocumented immigrants. While 55% of Americans agree with stricter border controls, 20% of workers in agriculture, construction, and service industries are undocumented. Economists warn this could shrink our GDP by 1 to 2% over 3 years, meaning fewer tax dollars for public services, higher labor costs, and more expensive products. The electric vehicle industry is particularly affected. Tesla and Rivian are scaling back production as costs soar. This impacts America's future in clean energy and global competitiveness. The market reaction tells the story. The Dow Jones has lost over 1,500 points in the past month, with no signs of reversing. Breaking news: trade war between US and Canada reaches critical point. In an unprecedented escalation of trade tensions, Canada has launched its most aggressive response yet to US trade policies, implementing a 25% retaliatory tariff on nearly $30 billion worth of American imports. This economic counterpunch targets steel, aluminum, computers, and sports equipment. Canada's finance minister delivered a stern message. "We will not stand by while the US imposes unfair policies on our economy. Canada will fight back dollar for dollar." The affected imports include $15.6 billion in steel and aluminum products, and $14.2 billion in computers, sports equipment, and cast iron products. Former President Trump continues to deflect responsibility for current economic challenges, blaming the Biden administration. However, experts point to Trump-era policies as key contributors to today's problems. The Harvard Business Review reports that Trump's tariff policies led to a 5 to 7% increase in imported goods from China, impacting American consumers. Former U.S. Ambassador to Canada James Blanchard warns that U.S.-Canada relations have hit their lowest point in modern history. "We were once strategic allies, but now everything has changed," Blanchard remarked. The deterioration has reached such a level that White House officials have dismissively referred to Canada as America's 51st state. The conflict has broader implications for North American trade relations, with the traditional $725 billion annual trade partnership at risk. While U.S. officials attempt to reframe the dispute as a security issue, citing drug trafficking concerns, Canadian authorities dismiss these claims as diversions from the real economic issues. The situation mirrors similar trade tensions with nations like China, suggesting a pattern in U.S. trade policy creating global economic strain. As American consumers face rising prices and businesses grapple with uncertainties, the question remains: will these escalating trade wars lead to meaningful reforms, or deepen the financial challenges facing both nations? Stay tuned as we monitor this developing situation. Breaking news on the trade crisis between the United States and Canada, revealing data that questions the foundation of this economic conflict. Our investigation uncovers facts about what appears to be an artificially manufactured trade dispute. U.S. Customs and Border Protection data shows that less than 1% of seized illegal drugs come from Canada, challenging the argument for increased border restrictions. The United States imports $15 billion in steel and aluminum from Canada annually. These tariffs will impact American families, with industry experts predicting a 10 to 15% price increase on U.S. imports from Canada within months, and 150,000 American jobs at risk. The United States maintains a $12.5 billion trade surplus with Canada in manufacturing. Former diplomat James Blanchard calls this crisis artificial, noting that America's only deficit with Canada is in energy. The automotive sector faces significant risks. With 75% of Canadian auto parts exported to the U.S., supply chain disruptions could lead to higher prices and job losses. A CNN poll shows 56% of Americans disapprove of the administration's handling of the economy, and these numbers could worsen as inflation rises. Price increases are expected on cars, electronics, and household goods. Washington is considering additional tariffs on Canadian imports by April. However, economists warn this stance could backfire. Canada's potential retaliation could be severe, with sources suggesting they're preparing a stronger response. Will Washington choose diplomacy or continue this potentially destructive path? Stay tuned as we follow this story affecting every American household. The stakes are high, with serious economic implications for American jobs, families, and North American trade relations.